Hello, my name is Sharon, and today I'll be explaining the protocol for soft agar assay. So soft agar assay is used when doing experiments to look for tumor formation because soft agar provides a very stringent conditions where normal cells can prosper and only tumor cells can grow. For this experiment or for soft agar assays, we use two layers. The top layer will be 0.33% and it will be mixed with the cells, and the bottom layer will be 0.5%, a little bit more concentrated at the top. That's because even if we use agar, normal cells can grow if they are able to settle down to the bottom and stick to the surface. So we want to use a more concentrated agar for the bottom layer. So since the top layer will be mixed in with the solution of the cell, it will have a one-to-one ratio of the agar and the cells. Therefore, we want to make a agar solution that is double the 0.33% that we want as our final concentration. So the top layer, we will make a 0.66% for now. First, set your hot water bath to 50 degrees, and then as you wait for that to warm up, you want to get the 4% agar, and then you want to put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Make sure to loosen up the cap all the way before you put it in, and then make sure that it doesn't bubble, so you want to check in between. When it's ready, make sure you use rubber gloves so that you don't burn your hands. And then you want to take the stock bottle and put it in the hot bath. So the solutions you would need for this experiment is JB6 growth media, JB6 agar media, PBS, and trypsin. As for the JB6 agar media, you want to have it in the hot water bath and warmed up before you dilute the 4% agar. So you want to take about 30 mils and then put it in a 50 milliliter test tube and put it in the hot water bath before you use it. And you also want to prepare your conditions. For this experiment, we're going to be using EGF and carvedilol. So we're going to have that out in room temperature as well. In this step, we're going to be labeling the test tubes that we're going to be using. So we're going to first label the two 50 milliliter test tubes. One of them will be for the top and the other will be for the bottom. The bottom will be 0.5% agar, and then the top will be 0.66% agar, which will dilute down to 0.33% when we mix with the cell solution. As for the 15 milliliter test tubes, one of them is going to be labeled cell, and then we're going to have two bottom layers and then three top layers. So the reason why we don't need to make a third bottom layer for the control is because we can just use it from the 0.5% bottle. So the control would just be the agar for the bottom, and for the top, it'll be the cell and the agar. And then we would have a condition for just EGF and another condition for EGF plus carvedilol. In this step, I'm just going to be putting the conditions in, carvedilol and EGF, to the appropriate amount in the labeled test tubes that contain the condition. So for the ones that have EGF, I would put EGF, and then the ones that have EGF and carvedilol, I would put EGF and carvedilol. And here I'm going to be making the top and bottom layer diluted agar. The top will be 0.66% and then the bottom will be 0.5%. There's going to be a separate video on how I did the calculations. And depending on how many wells you're going to do, the calculations will be slightly different. But in this step, basically, we're using the 4% agar, and then we're going to be diluting it down with the agar media. And make sure the agar media is warm well in the hot water bath before you use, or there's going to be like clumps and lumps. you're done using the agar media, you want to close the lid and put it back into the hot water bath so it can stay warm. And you want to take out the 4% agar that was in there. And then you're just going to be putting the appropriate amounts into each tube. So one being top and then the other being bottom layer. When done using, put the 4% agar back into the hot water bath and then close the lids for the two tubes and then mix it gently and then check to see if there are any clumps or lumps. If there are, then you have to start all over again and then put those into the hot water bath. Next, you're going to take out the plate. So we're gonna start by making the bottom layer. So take out the 0.5% diluted agar that we just made. Make sure it's warm. And when working with, when doing soft agar assays, you have to always make sure that the agar is warm and liquid, and make sure it doesn't solidify. And if it does, you have to put it back into the hot bath. So we're gonna have three conditions, well, two, the EGF and EGF plus carvedilol, and the one being the control. For the bottom layer, we didn't make a 15 ml test tube for the control because we can just take it straight out from the 0.5% 15 ml test tube. As for the other two conditions, we're going to place 2 milliliters of this agar, 0.5% agar, into the tube. So that one is the EGF only, and then the other one is EGF plus carvedilol. And then we want to work with 2 milliliters because the minimum amount of volume that the reservoir requires is 2 milliliters. Now I'm just putting the 0.5% agar back into the hot tub, and then once closing the lids for these two 15 ml, we're gonna centrifuge it so that it combines with the conditions that we put in earlier. Now I'm doing the control. I guess the control for bottom is just going to be the 0.5% agar, so we're just gonna take some out from the 0.5% that was remaining, and then we're gonna place them in the wells. That would be the control. And then just make sure it's 100 microliters. Now on another reservoir, I'm going to be pouring out the first condition of the bottom layer, EGF only, and doing the same thing. Finally, on a third reservoir, I'm going to be pouring out the other condition, EGF plus carvedilol, and I'm going to be doing the same thing. And once you have completed the bottom layer, we have to allow it to solidify. And while we wait to do that, we can work on the cells that are going to be incorporated into the top layer.